Hello there, sword friends. I have a project update for you. Some time ago, I think I mentioned this. It's a Howard Clark 1086 katana, and I have been waiting a while to get fittings for it. This is a sword that's made by Howard Clark, but it's not polished. It doesn't have fittings. It obviously doesn't have a handle, and this is a broken saya from a Hanwei sword of some type. Anyway, that's not what the subject of this video is about. This video is about the fittings that I recently got from Roman Urban. These have been in the works for a while, and I'm very pleased with how they came out. It's different than I guess what I had pictured in my mind's eye, but honestly the result is better than I could have expected. And there's just a lot to share with you. I'll start with the Tsuba, though the set does include a Fuchi, Kashira, and Menuki. And actually, I suppose before I start with the Tsuba, the general process of this project was I wanted a Tsuba with, I gave some approximate dimensions, and I gave dimensions for the Fuchi because it had to fit this sword specifically. And when I say it had to fit this sword specifically, you can see that, you know, just right out of the gate, it, actually it'd be better if I took this off. Come on out of there. I'm gonna mess everything up. Okay. The Fuchi fits right on. Roman didn't have the sword to work with, but the Fuchi slides right on the tang. He was given the measurements and made something very precise. Anyway, it's very important that the Fuchi be a certain size because, well, at least it was in this case, because it's for a particular sword. That sword is larger than the average bear, and so I needed to make sure that this would fit. So I didn't buy a set of fittings from Roman again that wouldn't fit on a sword that I intended to use them on. It's not my first rodeo, and I'm hoping not to repeat previous mistakes. Anyway, I gave Roman some idea of what I wanted. I want swirly mitsudomes, not a surprise to any of you that watch, and I wanted a round Tsuba. I gave some general ideas, but basically I said so long as it has a swirly mitsudome in approximately these spots and has a copper theme to it, the rest you can do whatever. I gave a budget and then said, you know, do whatever you want. Actually, I think that was kind of his condition to do the job was, I'll do it, but you got to let me have a little artistic license here. And so I did, and I am very pleased with the result. It, again, isn't what I initially pictured in my brain, though I don't know exactly what I was picturing now. I am happy with the result, and there's some cool stuff to talk about. The first thing that I just want to note is at a glance, the Tsuba has some pretty cool stuff. One, it has this kind of rough texture to it, this rough, handmade, kind of rustic roughness to it. I'm not very accurate with my words today, but anyway, you can see that there's just not a terribly crisp line as the raised rim is outlined. It's not sharp or crisp, but at the same time it's not haphazardly made or poorly done by any stretch of the imagination. It just looks old and handmade and rough, made with kind of simple hand tools or some such thing. And then you have this moan, which is really clean. The lines are sharp and crisp, and it looks like it's done with the utmost care and precision. And those two things balance and contrast really well on this piece, more than honestly I thought they would. Roman, I really like his work when it's precise and crisp. He has just a really refined way of doing things, and this is certainly no exception. It's interesting to see that he can balance kind of the rustic look with a more precise and really refined look. Anyway, the material used on the moan area, the symbol area here, is supposedly shakudo, though I honestly don't know. Shakudo is supposed to be a deep black, and it's a mix of copper and gold as an alloy. I don't know what the quantity mix is. Roman could probably tell me, but I don't know if it'll turn black. My request from him was that it be copper colored, though, so I believe it is shakudo, but at the same time my request was a copper color, and that is what he gave. I wanted the habaki and the general kind of details on this to match together, so I wanted kind of a copper looking sword, and that's what I got. Underneath this moan area here, or around it I should say, is also this kind of raised rim around the moan, and it has this very detailed Nanako little kind of engraved round bumps, if you will, this little bumpy texture around here. And I almost have to get in with a macro lens to show you what they look like and just how precise and even they are. It is amazing. He did this by hand and put all those little bumps on there. That must be a pain in the butt. He must have some really profound patience and a steady hand. Even after a cup of coffee in the morning, I don't have the wherewithal or stability to do this level of work, or even imagine I could. So I am very impressed with it. It's really quite good, and I'll show it's on all of the pieces, on all of the moans, and it's very clean and precise and just really well done. I'm very impressed with how it looks. Anyway, you can see for yourself, there are just some very aesthetically pleasing pieces in here, and I am happy. It's got swirly mitsudomes on it, so I'd be happy regardless. But the balance and texture and theme and kind of ruggedness and precision, all of that has come together quite well in something that is simple and elegant all in one, and I generally tend to appreciate that. So I think it's cool. You can also see the signature on this side of the Tsuba. It's very pretty, and color-wise, in this light, it almost looks black, but in the sunlight, it almost looks like a kind of a deep brown. I'm not sure what's used to patina it, but it is, nevertheless, it's obviously patinaed. Roman also sent me some photos along the way of making the Tsuba, so I got to see some photos that just kind of catalog the process. I thought it was cool, and I asked for it, and he sent them, and I appreciated it. The Fuchi has a smaller moan on it. Obviously, all of these moans are matching. They have the same coloration to them. This is something else that I appreciate. I don't know exactly what it takes to do, though. I imagine it's a pain in the ass. Roman probably had to make the alloy here, and then the colors are all matching and clean, so it's not as though one color is different than the other. I suspect that might be a challenging thing to do. Anyway, he's nailed it. His signature is on the Fuchi. Fuchi is sized really well for the sword. It has a little bit of shape and dimension. If I were being particular and complaining about one thing, I kind of wish I had requested a little bit more dimension on the Fuchi and the Kashira area, just some sort of lip or rim or some additional level of texture. I really have no reason to bitch or moan. It's simple and beautiful, and it's nothing to really complain about. But in retrospect, I kind of wish I had asked for a little bit more zazz, if you will. I like about 30% more zazz. Anyway, the still very small Nanako area. It's beautifully patinaed. There's no blotches or splotches or uneven areas. It's very clean, crisp, and nice. If I go to the Kashira right here, Roman has included some shitadome. I don't think I specified that those were necessary or not, but they are included, which is cool. They add a little bit of zazz, if you will. This one has about 30% more zazz, but again, I would probably want just some sort of, I don't know, groove or inlet or something like that. Maybe it's not necessary. I don't know. Either way, the moan on the end of the Kashira here, again, really well done. He is so meticulous with this Nanako, this little kind of bumpy area here, and underneath, between the grooves of the kama shapes, there's this sandy texture or this kind of stone texture underneath, and just how the lines are crisp and clean, yet at the same time, anyway, I'm very impressed, suffice to say. And then on the Menuki, we have what looks like kind of a more conventional shakudo color. It's a deeper black, though I don't know if these are all shakudo or not. They are slightly darker along the edges. But again, all the way around, we have this bumpy texture. It's just really well done, shaped really well, and I am super pleased. Very much looking forward to seeing them on the finished sword. I do not have any theme ideas in my mind. I knew color scheme what I wanted. I wanted kind of darker browns, blacks, and copper colors, but I do not know exactly how the sword will look in the end. I'm kind of up in the air. If you have some ideas for me, go ahead and toss them in the comments section down below. Anyway, working with Roman was good. If you are in need of a custom fitting set, hopefully this gives you some window into what the man is capable of, though this is by far and away not the limits of his capabilities. Some of the Tsuba that he has put out, some of the fittings are absolutely amazing works of art, and he's capable of far more. This set was round about the $2,000 range, if I can recall correctly. It took a couple years to make, or a little over a year, I should say, and I really have no complaints for what this is and how long it took to make and all of that. I think it was actually a little less than $2,000. But anyway, you can see that the quality of fittings for what you get is really quite good. And if you have a specific design in mind, this is really the way to do it, especially if you're particular about things or an admirer of Roman Urban's work, I suppose. Anyway, those are some of the details that I have for you. I hope the photos and the video and whatnot has been interesting. One thing that I would say as a note, if you're considering getting custom fittings, is to be sure and measure and make sure everything fits. This Fuchi got some particular attention to fit. It's very important that there be a little bit of room on either side of the habaki, and that the Fuchi is not smaller than the habaki. It needs to be shaped in such a way that the person working on the sword has enough room to make an actual handle so everything fits on and works well. I made the mistake once with Roman Urban that I asked him to make some fittings. I gave some measurements. He delivered and did exactly what I asked, but they didn't fit on the sword because I didn't consider all of what was required to get that sword mounted. Now, I actually happen to have them on a different Howard Clark 1086 sword. As it would happen, it's sitting right outside of your view right now. It's also very pretty, but they weren't actually destined for that sword. I made a mistake in my measurements, and well, everything worked out in the end. I had another pretty sword to put them on. Most people don't have several sword projects laying around that they could use in the chance they make a mistake in measuring. So be sure you ask the right questions and make sure that all your parts are going to fit together. A lot of these craftsmen do this, for a living, or at least have quite a bit of experience. So if you can get some specific dimensions, drawings, measurements, that type of thing, they can do it quite well. I provided Roman Urban with measurements of this thing, and straight out of the box it fits right on without really a lot of wiggle room around. And this, Roman never got the sword in hand, and it fits right over the Nikago really well. So anyway, I'm very happy with how everything turned out. Tip of my hat to Roman. If you have any interest, I will put his info in the comments section down below. I also have this card from Roman. Come on, focus. So if you want to contact Roman, you can look right here. Roman Urban Fittings Maker. There's his contact information, his website. I recommend him very highly. He does some very impeccable work. Anyway, that's all I got for you. As always, cheers, and thanks for watching.